You got your Mac guys here on Birds 365, year number 4, first Monday of the 4th year of this show, and we're glad to have Jeff Kerr on with us. He joins us almost every single Monday, and he's done so again today. Thank you very much, Jeff Kerr. Here's why I want to start with you. The stream guys who are here every single day, we appreciate it. They keep Birds 365 on the air. Thank you very much for doing so. I want to respond to one of the questions that we got there, and I'm going to ask you to do so, Jeff Kerr, from our guy Daz, who is a constant streamer commenter, and we thank Daz. So the Eagles in this year's draft can get Verse and then trade for Patrick Surtain. So they had a speed rusher and get a cornerback. Or they can trade up, get an Arnold or a Mitchell in the draft at cornerback, and then trade for Josh Allen. Which one would you guys rather have? What exactly are they trading? If they're using their first-round draft pick to fill one of those two voids, what the hell are they giving up to get either Patrick Surtain or Josh Allen?
Are we doing NBA trades and trading 2026, 2027 first-round picks to do this?
Yeah. I guess you can.
I think the NBA's officially reached the 30s. They're now trading 2030 first-round draft picks.
I think the Sixers actually did it last year. It was either 2030 or 2029. It's up there.
Yeah. I don't know. But I don't know what – I'll freely admit I don't know what's going on in Denver. They seem like a mess. Obviously, they pigeonholed themselves into needing a quarterback, but and they have to go up in the draft and get one, presumably. I think maybe if you could trade them a quarterback, they might give you Patrick Surtain. But why would they trade Patrick Surtain?
Wait. The Eagles got Kenny Pickett.
Well,
Can't
that's
they
true.
reroute him to Denver to be their star?
I guess in fantasy world.
I'd rather have Jarrett Stidham as my starter, and apparently Sean Payton would too, because that's all he said at the owners' meetings every time we asked him.
Yeah, and Kwesi Odofa-Mensah wants Sam Darnold to be his starting quarterback. I mean, that when Sam Darnold and Jarrett Stidham are all you have, guess what? They're great. They're great. But we all know that's not the case, and both of those teams have kind of pigeonholed themselves to the point that they need to go up in the draft. But unless you're getting a quarterback and you're Denver, Jeff Kerr, why would you trade Patrick? I constantly trades are not one-way streets because the Eagles.
I guess they are Madden land. They're one-way streets.
The Eagles were interested in Patrick Surtain when he was drafted, which they were. Dramatic. That doesn't mean Denver's going to roll over and say, "Pet my belly, take Patrick Surtain." I don't
take our one good player that we have. By the way,
yeah, well, yeah, they have more than that, but yeah,
he's their best player. He's their most valuable player, which I don't think they're giving.
It is an NFL team, but yeah, he's a very good player. Yeah, they're not giving him away.
Twos and threes. I don't quite think that's getting the job done. All right, Jeff Kerr, how much WrestleMania did you watch this weekend? Are you a wrestling guy? I don't even know.
No, I'm not a wrestling guy, but I watched it. For one, I'm a big rock fan, so I had to watch it. By the way, as someone who doesn't watch wrestling, I actually knew what Cody Rhodes' story was, so I'm kind of impressed by
that. It surpassed just the wrestling circles. We'll agree on that. And it was very well done all week. Well, I didn't know if you were a wrestling fan or not. Glad you at least checked it out. How do you think Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey did in their cameo appearances?
So, you guys want to hear a funny story about that? When that happened, I knew the one was Lane because I've seen Lane.
Saw Dom shirt? You saw the Dom shirt?
Yep, that's what it was. And then Kelsey, I was like, Jason Kelsey might be with him. I don't know. Because Kylie Kelsey was at the Final Four, the women's Final Four on Friday night, and they showed Jason. So I'm like, I wouldn't. Let's put it this way. I wouldn't have been shocked if Jason Kelsey showed up at any point during WrestleMania. And lo and behold, he did. But, I'm watching WrestleMania with my dad. I'm like, Dad, that's Lane Johnson. He goes, no, it's not. I'm like, it is. That's Lane Johnson. So that was by the way, that final match last night, that was just nostalgia.
That was the most overbooked, glorious ending to a story ever. Although I expected Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I did too. That was the one that I thought, like John Cena coming back didn't surprise me. Although I wanted to see The Rock and John Cena kind of do more than like whatever they did for 5 seconds.
Yeah. Well, Rock's been getting ready.
Rock did his work on Saturday night. It wasn't like he just showed up last night for the 20-second cameo. Oh no! How long did that match go?
Oh, that went like 40. Minutes? Yeah, that went 40 minutes at least. There's a lot to the entrances and all that, but yeah, he's been working for months. I mean, Jason Kelce spent weeks at the Monster Factory. I was telling Jody in South Jersey, getting ready for that little spot. So it's been in the mix for a while, and the Eagles are a big part of it. The Eagles essentially hosted the thing from Lincoln Financial Field's perspective. So Eagles cheerleaders were out there last night to announce the attendance. Swoop was out there. A lot of Eagles.
John, that crowd seemed really, really loud just the entire night.
Yeah. They were a lot. It was a lot better Sunday than Saturday, but that's because of the weather. Saturday was brutal.
Oh, yeah.
It was cold.
It was really cold. They were fired up, but it was just so cold.
I'll tell you what, those Phillies games this week, I never want to attend or cover a baseball game ever again because how cold it was this week. Now, it's supposed to be warmer. It's supposed to be
starting
in the 70s.
Today. Yeah, starting today, it's going to get warmer. Tomorrow's going to be in the 70s. Yeah, so we missed it by a couple of days.
How much does today's degrees have to do with the lunar eclipse? Because you're an inquisitive guy, Jeff Kerr. I'm scared. I'm worried. You're going to go outside and try and check it out. And we're going to get Jeff Kerr on with sunglasses next week.
My college roommate was a meteorologist. I'm more than prepared.
Okay, if you say so.
What time is this thing supposed to happen? That I have
like 3:20 something, 3:23 or something like that. By the way, he sent me a
4:20 for a certain group of people.
No. Kurt's got the right. It's between 3. I think 2:30 and 5 is the time it's supposed to be, but the exact time where you're going to have the best view, I think Jeff's right. Sometime in the 3 o'clock hour.
But by the way, my college roommate sends me a text when the day the earthquake hit. He goes, this is in conjunction with the lunar eclipse, right? And I'm like,
Jeff's frozen up for me. Is that just me? Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah.
No, I still got Jeff.
Yeah, you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got.
Okay, cool. So my college roommate goes, when the earthquake hit, what was it, Friday? This is in conjunction with the lunar eclipse, right? And he goes, I can call you and give you a 15-minute spiel. I'm like, I heard enough of your 15-minute spiels in college over weather patterns and this and that. I said, I still tell him all the time because he always says him and I have the same job. I said, no, when you're wrong, you get a raise. When I'm wrong, I get fired.
Oh, shout on gold to the weather forecasters. Wow. I love it. So just quickly, and promise streamers, we'll get back to the Eagles in a sec. Do earthquakes cause eclipses, or do eclipses cause earthquake? He must have, at the top, he's got to give you that as the number one spiel of peace.
He said it was eclipses cause earthquakes.
Eclipses cause earthquakes. All right.
I just learned something. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. Yeah. I was just like, whatever. I'm always the whatever guy, but I do take that information.
Yeah, I think he's pulling your third leg, Jeff Kerr.
Yeah, I mean, probably is.
That's just me.
Yeah. Maybe Tide stuff with I think he's pulling your leg. I think
probably is. I mean,
I gotta check with John Belaris on this. I'll get a.
John Belaris does a lot more than weather and I do.
So you're telling me weather is much like wrestling, predetermined? I'm sorry, I'm just not buying.
Well, that's true too, because you got the conspiracy theories with the government. By the way, I got the knucklehead on Twitter. Do I think wrestling is real? I hate these people. I mean, do you think Mission Impossible is real? Do you go to a movie? Oh, I think Tom Cruise is really saving the world. I mean, come on, dummy.
Get with the program. All right, Jeff Kerr, we were talking about this before we punched you up. Avante Maddox back on a very team-friendly deal. Guaranteed money, so if he's just got awful in the preseason, then they could be out 800 and change thousand, which again isn't going to bring the Eagles to their knees if they take a hit like that. But a team-friendly deal for a guy who was scheduled to make, what was 7 million was he supposed to count on the cap this year,
Six
John?
and change, I
6
think.
and change,
Yeah,
almost
it
7 million.
was a big amount.
So they brought that number down considerably, and we know he's a talented player, can play the position, but he's an injury waiting to happen. And I have some reservations in that he's going to come in and not be hurt and be good, but then the other shoe is going to drop and he's going to go out again. Have the Eagles done enough to fortify themselves that if that happens, they just shrug and move on to the next inside corner? They tried that last year. It failed miserably, but are they in a better position this year to withstand the eventual Avante Maddox injury?
I think they're deeper at that position. And again, it depends what they want to do with Isaiah Rodgers. Like, John, are they cross-training him inside, or are they just going to keep him outside?
My guess, we were talking about that. My guess is now that Avante is back, they'll start with him outside and eventually cross train. Because remember, when training camp starts, they don't really cross train because they have so many bodies, and they'll have not only Avante, Zach will be back, Zach McPherson, Tyler Hall, who they signed, who's a natural slot corner. So my guess is those three will start in the slot, and they'll start Isaiah outside because that's what he's used to playing from Indianapolis. But eventually, I think he'll cross train as they start to whittle down, because I don't think both Zach McPherson and Tyler Hall make this team. I think one or the other probably makes the team, and then you start needing those contingencies. And I think Isaiah will ultimately start cross training, but probably not to start.
Overall, though, I just keep looking at the cornerback position, and I said this on the 975 The Fanatic this weekend. I think they should go cornerback early in the draft, but I just keep hearing it's going to be the trenches again. And I'm okay with that because they have so many needs, but if you really want to get younger at that position and find I guess your best chance at a difference maker, cornerback would be round 1 or round 2, right?
Well, yeah, but if they're drafting a cornerback in round 1, it's going to be an outside corner. They're not drafting a slot
Yeah,
corner.
exactly. They're not. You don't draft slot corners.
But I have heard from our draft guys, it's a very deep slot corner. So they could also bring a slot corner in, later day 3 if there's a lot of guys who could factor in. So they still might add another body to that mix who's a natural slot corner. But yeah, if they're going first round, it's got to be outside, and it's got to be. And hey, I'm the only person in Philadelphia who thinks James Bradbury would be a good fit for Vic Fangio. But I think
I'll second you on that, because apparently I keep getting told, "Oh, they should cut him. They should cut him." I'm like, "Oh, okay, well."
They don't need to cut him right
yeah, exactly.
now. Yeah, if they draft a corner though in the first round, they will cut him. So it's an interesting dichotomy. I think it's, I think he'd be a great fit. I think they'll be fine if they're forced to keep him, but they might not even have him.
Would you rather see him draft an edge rusher or a cornerback round
1? Corner.
Yeah, even after the Maddox signing, because I was very much in the corner of the corner, so to speak, that I thought that was there. And again, I believe the Eagles in this. I think they play it to the hilt and overstate it, as does every other team in the NFL. The best available athlete, highest ranked player. To a point, if you've got two guys that are very close in the ratings and you are 6 deep at one position and have a glaring hole at another, I'm not believing you when you tell me, "Oh, we're taking number 19 on our board rather than number 20. There's always flexibility there. But I thought that cornerback was a bigger position in need. The way you guys are talking, and I'm buying what you're saying, I think the Avante Maddox re-signing actually might be the difference. That because they now have the ability to move their still to be reinstated quarterback from slot to the outside, that give them, even if they're going to cut Bradbury, which I think is likely, as you guys just stated, I think that probably is the difference between them taking a cornerback in the first round and not taking a cornerback.
By the way, when I was in Florida, that was one of the more shocking things to me at the year. And I know they don't deal with like a lot of the player reinstatements, but you thought you'd hear something on Isaiah Rodgers potentially getting reinstated, and Jeffrey Lurie couldn't even answer that.
No, well, because he had no information. Nothing against, it's a big deal in Philadelphia, but I don't think it's a big deal in the NFL circles. I mean, we're not talking about a high-profile player. Guy
So fun
signs.
story, John. When he got suspended, I was talking with Jonathan Jones, our lead NFL insider, and he goes, they actually told me when it was him, they're like, well, it's a marquee player. And he's like, okay, well, tell me who the marquee player is. And then when they said it was him, he goes, okay, he's a starter. He goes, I'm not even sure if it's good stuff.
Yeah, he's certainly not a marquee player. But I think the Eagles will know. And I said by April 15th, the start of off-season work, which is next Monday.
Yeah,
and if they don't,
7 days to find that out, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, and if they don't, then I think you start asking questions and going, "What's going on here? Why is he getting reinstated?"
Because John, are you getting summoned to the NovaCare complex on April 15th, or do they not do that
anymore? No, they won't. They don't have to. Phase 1 is just, strength and conditioning and rehab and that kind of stuff. Phase 2, the on-field stuff, they have to open at least one day you have the 3 OTAs, you have the 3 sets of OTAs. The Eagles are only using 2, and they have to open one day each. And they're having mandatory minicamp. That has to be open all 3 days. Most teams usually cancel that 3rd day. That's been the way of
but maybe not the Eagles this year, Johnny Mac.
Maybe not.
That used to be paintball day in Doug Peterson.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's coming soon. And the Eagles will usually give us some players here and there. They might give us some players after the week of April 15th, probably not Monday, but Tuesday, Wednesday, they might give us some players. But obviously no on-field stuff until May. And the first exciting thing, I guess, will be rookie camp, and you have the rookie tryout players. Interestingly, another wrestling reference, Trick Williams, former Eagles tryout receiver. Matrick Belton is his real name.
What's Trick Williams' real name? I don't know.
Matrick Belton, South Carolina receiver.
See, I thought when he was with the Eagles, he was Trick Williams.
Same here. I didn't know that.
Matrick. Interesting name. Yeah,
right,
Matrick Belton.
The Eagles will not be bringing Matrick into camp this year. So that's good for Trick, as he's kind of engaged doing something else, potentially becoming a wrestling star. All right, here's my question for you, Jeff Kerr. If the Eagles are going to do more work this year, and they've certainly come up just short of saying exactly that, in years previous, less work meant more health, which was the way that they leaned. Might be a little different this year. 2 new coordinators. Oh, by the way, they had 2 new coordinators last year, and it didn't stop them from doing it. But last season collapsed. Probably the biggest reason why. How's that going to go with the players? There's turnover every single year. A couple of the veteran guys who got the preferential treatment, Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey, not here anyway. But the players that are returning, is that going to be something that Sirianni's going to have to deal with? Guys worried about, hey, wow, they're working us too hard before the season starts?
Coach Kerr, who, again, this is Coach Kerr talking, basketball coach. This is what I would tell him. Well, then don't lose 6 or 7 to end the season. That's it. That's my only answer.
The players. But if you're the coach, Coach Kerr, Coach Sirianni, you were there too. Yeah, we lost 6 and 7. You lost 6 and 7 too.
You know how it works. It's, well, okay, we're going to change stuff up because we're going to change it up. And obviously what I did last year didn't work, and that's on me, but you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Yeah, I think it's a pendulum effect. I talk about it all the time. The Eagles need work because they're coming off a bad ending of the season. So I think, it's hard to complain right now. But yeah, I think, and remember, Jason Kelsey's gone. So Fletcher Cox is gone. So some of the guys who don't need the work important guys aren't going to be there. I'm sure they'll be very judicious with Lane Johnson. I always joke Brandon Graham wants to practice. He's a weirdo, so it doesn't affect him.
He's a weirdo in general, but yes.
Yeah, he loves it, so it doesn't affect him at all. But top 30 visits, Jeff Kerr. Let's talk about those. 18, I think, is the number.
Is it 18 now that they got?
Yeah, well, that I know of, 18. A lot of offensive linemen. Bunch of corners, a couple edge rushers, linebackers, and I think there's a weird Brendan Rice was in, Jerry Rice's kid, Ania Smith from Texas A&M, couple receivers. Pretty evident they won an offensive lineman, they won an edge rusher at some point, they won a linebacker, they won a cornerback. Should be no surprise, right? That's where they're focused on. Yeah. That third receiver spot, though, how important is that for you? I have no confidence in Paris Campbell or Devontae Parker. I got to tell you.
I don't either. I have a lot more confidence in Campbell than I do in Parker, and that's not a lot. So, John, I hate doing them, but I have to do them. Mock drafts.
So do I.
Yeah, I hate them. Absolutely hate them. Just so the streamers know. So I had to do an Eagles team-centric one. You know, I drafted Ricky Pearsall in the second round last week. That's just how important I think that number 3 receiver is, mostly the slot. And my reasoning was, well, okay, they got no depth behind A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, and it'd be nice to have a playmaker there. Oh, let's just get a guy who's really good in the slot that can catch inside passes. That's a great route runner, and go from there. And you just made a really good offense that much better. So I wouldn't be shocked they went receiver early.
No, either would I. I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm glad you didn't go Saquon Barkley in the slot. I applaud you for that.
No.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
All right. I would be a little bit surprised if they went receiver in the second round, even though I, for 2 years running, have said Quez Watkins isn't good enough. When the hell are they going to get better than Quez Watkins? Paris Campbell, you saw it over the weekend, right? He and Nick Sirianni are like this. They're tied at the hip. They understand each other.
So was Nick and Quez Watkins.
Yeah, I was going to say Nick and Quez were like that too, Jody. What are you insinuating here?
So you're not buying what Paris is selling, huh?
Yeah. You know, I don't understand how a guy who once ran what did he run? 4.31, I think. It was absurd. Something absurd.
He was a really good receiver in college.
Yeah, coming out of Ohio State. And he averaged 5.3 yards a catch. How is that even possible? Even with bad quarterbacks and everything else, I'd have to watch every Giants game. I guess it is, considering the quarterbacks. But
we were having this debate at CBS this weekend with wide receiver. Who's the better wide receiver factory right now? Is it Ohio State or is it LSU?
LSU,
yeah.
Yeah,
close.
I mean, it does seem like Ohio State turns them out. But
it is. Yeah, Ohio State, though. Wow. Yeah, it is close.
It feels like every year Ohio State has somebody. Like, remember when Marvin Harrison was the third receiver on Ohio State?
Yeah, youngster. Right behind the years guy.
Well, everybody thought Jefferson couldn't play outside because he was stuck inside at LSU. So it's the same thing.
Yeah, because heaven forbid Jamar Chase was out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Now you got Malik Nate. Oh, man. What a gift.
And that's one of my, I've been saying this now for a couple of weeks. That's one of my concerns about Jaden Daniels. Love the player. I got on the Jaden Daniels for Heisman bandwagon a lot earlier than a lot of other people did last year. So I like the kid, and I think he's a dynamite player. But he's got 2 wide receivers going to be taken in the top 20 in the draft? Thomas is going to be first round. So did he make them or did they make him? I'm not sure about that.
It could be both.
Could be. And
well, that's why that's the hard part because you're always throwing a wide open receivers. It's kind of tough to judge because that's not going to happen at the NFL level.
You know where this is where I get frustrated about the draft. When all of a sudden did Marvin Harrison not be the consensus #1 wide receiver?
Well, he won't work out. He
Yeah,
didn't
he
work out.
okay,
There's
well,
all that stuff.
I'll tell you what. Go look up Marvin Harrison against Penn State the last 2 years, and I'll tell you who the #1 wide
Well,
receiver
you know how it works. I mean, some old school people are like, "Why? What are you afraid of? That you won't work out? What you know?" And now you got all that nonsense about the kid from LSU that's coming out late in the draft process about he's a high maintenance or
Yeah,
whatever.
what does that mean?
That's one team saying this to hopefully put it out to somebody who will say it, and somebody will be cautious, and they're hoping it falls a
You know
little
what
bit.
I gotta look up? AJ Brown's draft. I like reading current players draft, and it's funny because I've talked to some players in the locker room about this and like what their pre-draft thing was, and some of them never seen it before. They're like, "Oh, I was too fat," something like that, and they just
AJ
laugh
was a
about it.
slot. AJ was a slot guy.
Yeah, he
Big
was. I mean, yeah,
slot.
he couldn't play outside either.
Yeah, he couldn't play outside. Yeah, it's a hard job. I'm not going to criticize scouts, but the the stuff, and there's a lot of things like DK Metcalf. The Eagles got a lot of problems over. Oh, they passed on DK Metcalf. Well, no, the medical people passed. They had a red flag on him. A lot of
Cardinals
teams
passed
did.
on him too, and they
A
took
lot of
Andy
teams did.
Isabella.
Yeah, because he had a neck issue. I believe it was a neck issue. And he stayed healthy, and nobody doubted he was a good player. They were just concerned about the health part of it. And they would have considered him on day 3. They never removed it. That's another thing. They never remove people. It's just they're not going to use premium picks on injury concerns.
You know what, John? I always say it's not who they passed on; it's the guy they took. I think that bothers people.
It's
Well,
both.
it should.
It's a combination of the two, and what you just stated, John, is one of the things that really annoys me. We didn't take him off our board. We dropped him down to the 6th or 7th. You know he's not going to be in there at 6th or 7th round. He's that good that he's being talked about as a first round pick. Somebody's going to take a shot in round 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Well, we had him on our board. Well, where'd you have him? Oh, the 6th round. You took him off your board. Don't give me the
Well, yeah,
board stuff.
well,
That's
no,
crap.
but I'm just there's a lot of people, and we had Matt Manicherian on, and he had a great explanation, so people can go to the Birds 365 YouTube page, and he explained it he's a former scout, from a scouting perspective. You got the pristine board, you're done, essentially after the college all-star games. Maybe somebody crap in the bed on a pro day might change something, but it's pretty much done. But then here comes the medical people, here comes the coaches, and everything is, if the medical people come in and say, can't take this kid, what are you going to do? I mean, that's what happens.
Here would be my question for the Eagles in general and as an organization, because one of the things my father taught me, former professional general manager, is an important part of his job is he has to scout his own scouts, because different scouts scout differently and give different grades. And if it's 1 through 10 through 4, somebody might give a 90 grade, and a guy who's a harder scout might give an 80 grade, and you'd say, well, his 80 grade is better than the other scout's 90 grade because one's an easy grader and the other's a tough grader. So you have to do your internal scouting. Did the Eagles come down on the medical staff for saying, yeah, we would need to draft the Seattle wide receiver 3 or 4 rounds later because of the medical? And then he stays healthy and then he plays. And yeah, guys like McDonald bring up, they could have had DK Metcalf, and they got to listen to it for years thereafter. Do they hold the medical person accountable who says, I would not take a chance on this guy. I would drop him down at least 2 or 3 rounds.
I would hold that whole medical staff accountable at the time, because wasn't that the era where it seemed like every time a player got on the field, they had a soft tissue injury?
Well, yeah, they're no longer here.
That medical team is,
but I don't think it's about DK Metcalf. No, I think it's more about what Jeff said. Some bad rehab and things of that nature more than individual. A bunch of teams, and I mean a bunch of teams, as in more than half, had red flags on DK Metcalf. So it wasn't just the Eagles. It's not,
and they're paying for it too. I mean, Indianapolis and Arizona. By the way, those guys, they're not with their teams anymore either. Paris Campbell and Andy Isabella. So
yeah. And our buddy Miles Jack, who was here, I always remember Miles, who was here for a very short time. Great.
He was here longer than Frank Gore, though.
Yeah. He was a great player in college. At one point when he was coming out early in the process, he was expected to be a top 5 pick, and he had a degenerative knee condition, and a lot of teams were concerned about it and wouldn't hold up for very long. Ended up playing longer than anybody else was worried about. And he fell to the second round. I mean, and he was a great player coming out. Should have been, as I said, and linebackers were more valued at the time. Life moves so fast. So, I mean, yeah, it's no guarantee, but it's really hard to say as a general manager, I'm not going to listen to the medical people. If the medical people say so-and-so is not going to hold up or this and that, you don't have expertise. So Nick talks about it all the time. I'm not an expert. And when it comes to medical issues, you got to trust those guys. And when they do get fired, they do get fired. And it's usually under the radar. But the Eagles were not the only team to have a red flag on DK.
And that's a good half of defense. Just because somebody else made the same mistake as you doesn't give you a free pass.
Well, that's a doctor. Jerry Seinfeld's got a great bit on doctors. Everybody's the best. You know, yeah. Everybody can't be the best. There's got to be somebody at the bottom of these medical classes who's a crappy doctor.
The best doctor in Seinfeld was Dr. Guberman, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, everybody can't be the best, but they are. And I say all the time, Joe, there's never been in the history of the world an unsuccessful surgery, sports surgery. I suppose if you lose a patient on the table, it's unsuccessful.
Yes.
But in sports, everything's successful.
And successful surgery. It's only going to take him 18 months to rehab from Tommy John surgery, but it was successful.
Yeah. That doctor that loses the patient, he can't be best. It's usually 32-way tie for who the best doctor in the NFL is with all the teams. Yeah, sorry, you're 32nd. You lose a patient on the table. Yeah, you're officially last. All right, last point for me, Jeff Kerr. Who's a better wide receiver starting in 2024 and going forward, Devontae Smith or Michael Pittman?
Ooh. Well, I thought Devontae Smith was better than Michael Pittman now, so can I just go with him there?
I'm not a big Michael Pittman guy.
I'm not either. I've gotten arguments with guys I work with. Like, they're saying Michael Pittman. Oh, if he had a quarterback, I'm like, okay, well, he's got a quarterback now, and I wasn't impressed with him when he had the quarterback.
I don't think he's a bad player, but I was surprised that obviously they franchised him, right? And then
got him signed.
By the way, that's another Ohio State guy.
Yeah.
Last year, 109 receptions. And
I'm not saying he's a bad
1,200 yards. And here's the reason why I asked the question. $23 million per. So if you think that Devontae Smith is a better wide receiver than Michael Pittman, and John thinks Devontae Smith is a better wide receiver than Michael Pittman, and I think that Devontae is a better receiver, we're starting at $25 million per.
Yep,
for Devontae.
And I think he's
talking about an extension. When you're already paying AJ.
I've told you, if I'm Devontae Smith's agent, I'm waiting for Justin Jefferson.
Yep. And, absolutely. Everybody goes, Eagles got to get it done now. I'm like, do you ever think maybe the player doesn't want it done now?
As much as we all love Devontae Smith, he's not Justin Jefferson.
No, but that's not the point.
I know. I get Jefferson's going to run the top end of it up. But if you're Howie Rook, come on. You want to bring up Justin Jefferson.
It's going to elevate the entire market for wide receivers. It's just going to go up. Rising tide. Whatever that saying is.
Don't worry, guys. I was studying Eagles contracts this week. There's void years into the 2030s now, so they'll take care of it.
And with Pittman's a different type of Pittman's a big guy. not the fastest guy in the world. Last year, you mentioned he averaged 10.6 yards of reception. He's not an explosive guy. They're different types of players. My question is to you, Jeff, we'll end it there. We kept you. I apologize. We always keep Jeff, but he's so great at Jeff Kerr CBS. Make sure you read him there. Does a tremendous job here with us. Devontae Smith, AJ Brown. Here's my concern: you can't keep them both. I don't think you can keep them both long term. That I don't care. That's my concern. Who can you? Who do you pick? And you draft another guy. That's another reason why you might draft a receiver, because you got to pick, and then you're going to need a new number 2. Are you going just? I think everybody defaults to Devontae Smith. AJ's very young, and AJ's better.
AJ Brown's really, really good at football. So it's. I mean, if I'm picking between the two, it's AJ Brown. You told me you got to pick one. I'm picking AJ Brown, but I'd love to keep them both. It's just not possible.
So if that's the case, and they're going to stick with AJ Brown, can they get a future 3rd-round pick that can elevate to a 2nd-round pick if they trade Devonta Smith
in 2028?
How about a 1st-round pick?
2031 would be the thing that I look for Howard. Sorry,
I'm
going to carry this Hassan Reddick grudge forever until.
Now you're going to love Hassan. Hassan's your guy.
I'm talking about here on Birds 365. I'm not talking about outside the show when Hassan's getting 20 sacks for the Jets next year.
Ooh, 20,
I will love Hassan
I'm taking the under there, Joe.
But here on Birds 365,
I am convinced.
I'll be reminding people that the Eagles are not making a Jet selection this year. They're not making it next year.
I love Hassan, but I'm taking the under on 20.
I am convinced Hassan Reddick might be the first player defensive player since Brian Dawkins that Eagles fans are generally going to root for with their new team just because of that trade.
Much like he did the previous year, Hassan will get his 20th sack in that second Sunday in February when the Jets
is he going to play 67% of the snaps?
Since we gave him 19 plus the year before when he got extras in the playoffs, the Zon extra credit sacks are going to take place this year.
If the Jets let him play 60, whatever it is, 67.5, whatever it is.
It'll be 67.4.
Exactly.
He won't even play the last game.
They can manipulate that. They better manipulate that.
First off, if you look at how the Jets run their defense, I don't think Hassan Reddick's going to play 67.
No, and they have depth too. They don't need to play him as much as the Eagles did. They should be able to handle it.
It's a shame Carl Lawson had all the injuries he had because I love that signing when they made it.
That did not work out. You are correct. As a Jet fan, I can say that. Jeff Kerr, I'm a Jeff Kerr fan, too. Thank you very much for jumping in today. Go watch WrestleMania highlights. Catch up, big guy.
Oh, no, I'm going to watch, probably going to rewatch the women's basketball tournament. By the way, that awesome. As a former women's basketball coverer, that was an awesome tournament. And Caitlin Clark, I don't care what those people at UConn say. Caitlin Clark she may not be the GOAT, but she definitely transcended the game.
Dawn Staley's the GOAT.
Dawn Staley is the GOAT. I love Dawn Staley.
Dawn Staley said correctly last night, one of the GOATs. Perfect way to phrase it.
Dawn Staley's great, by the way. She has a perfect answer for everything. She's a North Philly through and through. I almost teared up because she was crying yesterday because she doesn't cry.
Yeah, she's a tough girl. And she
future Sixers coach. I've said that for many years.
By the way, are the Sixers ever going to lose again?
They almost lost last night to the
mighty San Antonio Spurs. I thought they were dead in the water.
What did Maxey had 50, right? 52.
Him and Embiid are the first pair of teammates to have 3 separate 50-point games in a season.
He did double overtime to get it, though.
Now you just got to keep both of them healthy.
Got to get the 6th seed. And last night was big.
JK, always a pleasure, buddy. We'll get you back on next Monday. Thanks, pal.
Yep, sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports.com, here with us on Birds 365. All right, Mac coming back. Hour number 2, going to get Hunter Brody up. But before we do that, I'd like to try and give you guys a chance to save some money. Birds fans, How would you like to save upwards of 40% on your car insurance right now from one of JAKIB Sports' great partners? Here's what you need to do. Call one of the two managing general partners. Make it either Jim or Fran. They're both great guys. Tell them you're a friend of JAKIB Sports and Birds 365 and save.
Hi, I'm Jim Muehlbronner, Managing Partner at Del Val Insurance Group. Give us a call. We're a local, knowledgeable agency, not an 800 number. Go Birds!